catch a vibe. Catch a foot when I drive. Big pressure, I apply. In the ring, you won't survive. Yeah, I swerve when I drive. Yeah, I swerve when I drive. Yeah, I swerve when I drive. If you hit me, you lost your mind. Hop, oh, catch a vibe. Catch a foot when I drive. Big pressure, I apply. In the ring, you won't survive.
In our potty mouth.
I depend on you hitting record.
I'm already recording. I have been recording since we popped over.
Sweet.
So what's going on, everybody? I am the one, the only, the W-O-O-K-I-E. The Misfit cycle continues to cycle, but starting out, we got the Ewokiest of Ewoks, Ewok Jr.
Hello, Keyforge community. Glad to be here, man.
The Choke Show, Drazcor.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Whoa. What was that?
He keeps dropping his mic.
Ewok, did you just fall over?
Didn't I get you an
die?
arm for your microphone?
What happened? Well, but he doesn't have an arm right now. It's a problem.
Speak to us. I don't. I only have one.
Speak to us,
arm.
Ewok.
We're okay, man.
Speak to us.
Well, good thing we got the resident PhD, Dr. Sheep.
We're going to have to cut it off.
Yep. Dr. Dre,
I want to be like my twin.
Dr. Dre, just don't sit there. Amputate. Does anybody? No? Nobody? Okay.
No.
Ben might remember. And then we got Ben the Monkey joining us this week. What's up, Ben?
What's going on, Keyforge community? Very exciting to be here.
Yep. Are you ready to bash GG for a full hour and a half, maybe 2 hours?
Let's do it.
Okay.
But can I share a little bit of breaking news that we just got in?
Breaking news. Dun,
Is there
dun, dun.
OP?
No.
This
Would you be
only
my
matters to
neighbor?
me. This is something that truly matters only to me. If for those who don't know, I'm a Khalifi dragon collector
Enthusiast.
slash
is what we call
obsessor,
that.
worshiper. Who knows? I've in the past created art that was meant to make sleeves of the Khalifi dragon, where I kind of edit out the background and stuff. But the latest blog post we have brand new coming in, the full sized, or at least the full dimensions art of Khalifi dragon. We can now actually see the rest of his wing, and it's blowing my mind. I'm sure nobody else is excited about that, but I am extremely happy to see more of my favorite dragon boy.
It just kind of looks like a floating axe. Because
Yeah,
the
it
way
kinda
the cloud separates it.
He is
Yeah,
Broad
really
Runner,
does.
Mhm.
so kind of
That's
makes
very
sense.
Broad
Okay,
Runner.
axe wings are cool.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean,
He's got rocket launchers on his wings too, right? I mean,
It's all about perspective. This excitement, Ben, is exactly what we need. Is little moments. Share the joy in those little moments. I love it, man.
all right. So this could be the gateway drug to full art cards. How cool would full art Keyforge cards be?
I think that'd be cool. I do look at art. I know not everybody on this cast does, but I like a lot of the art in this game.
Just saying. Full
I mean,
art.
there was, I hear on one of them things I don't understand, they asked for people to comment on their favorite Keyforge art.
They did that. It's called X and or Twitter. Whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it
okay.
this week, Sheep.
I can't do that. I'm not smart enough.
Which is
I've
weird because
lost-
Dr. Sheep has a Twitter, just he doesn't use it.
Yes, actually, I do have a Twitter, but that's only there to put you back in your place when it has to happen.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
It's only when I have to do my doctoring.
Yep.
So-
So
But I did participate in that discussion on the Discords, which the only OP art I care about is the one that says Keyforge and Organized Play. And there is
So-
art for that.
Ghost Galaxy Games asked favorite Keyforge art and go. Can you guys maybe guess some of the favorite art? Let's just guess.
Hmm.
Oh, Jericho. Does she have legs? We need a full art card. She might not
Yeah,
have
we don't
legs.
know if Val Jericho has
She
legs.
just doesn't have legs.
Maybe she just sits
Turns
in the
out.
cap. Maybe that's how she became captain because she has no
Maybe-
legs. So she just has
Maybe
to sit
she
in a
has
chair.
like spider legs, like the guy from Wild Wild West.
Yeah, maybe you don't know.
Good day.
Well, I'll give you one guess. Actually, there's two
Bad
that
Penny.
Bad Penny is not on there.
Hastis Raptors.
Also not on there.
They have to be there for some reason because
They're not.
They keep coming
Wild
back.
Wormhole.
Also not on there.
That's a good
Fuzzy
guess.
Druid.
What about
Fuzzy
in the stockpile?
Fuzzy Gruen is on there. Fuzzy Gruen was the
Um,
first response.
The bot token.
Bot is
Flume.
not on there. Neither is Flume.
That
Oh,
fish.
we just
Fish
spelled it.
is fish. has a
No
big paw.
fish.
I was
Was
going to
in the
name it.
stockpile, right?
Burn a stockpile is not correct. So there's another
darn.
fan favorite that everybody loves that I want to burn to the ground after playing it this week.
Heart of the Forest.
Blorb.
It's number one.
Blorb.
I love Heart of the Forest. Don't you dare ever say a bad thing about it ever again. Number two, it's 100% Blorb. That card is trash.
Oh, it's the best.
Well,
was-
wait. What do you mean? Because you had a deck that could do everything that you wanted, except you had the Blorb
Except
token?
I had Blorb. Literally, I have any other token of either of the houses. Well, I had Brobnar, I had Equidon, and I had Mars. If I have a functioning token from any one of the 9 possibilities, or I'm sorry, it would be any 8 possibilities, I have a deck that might be slightly busted. I get a Blorb and it just grinds to
Hey, man.
a halt.
Those Blorbs fought, and it was unimpressive.
It was
They-
very unimpressive because everyone else opened Mars, and then I got a Mars makes bad. I'm done. I quit.
All right. I have another guess. How
All
about
right,
the
go ahead.
Ultra Gravitron?
Ultra
That one's
Gravitron
really
is
cool.
not on there. So
Oh.
we have a discard on. We have one discard that you're missing.
Discard.
Is it an
Rephrase.
action creature?
It is an action.
Oh.
One that I would not have guessed that I actually never paid attention to the art until now.
I was
Control
going
it.
to name a DT card, but I actually can't think of one right
It
now.
is from that could
What's that?
DT bad set. It is from Coda.
From Coda.
Hold on.
Action From Coda. 3 Fates.
That's what
You-
my pick.
It is not 3
Oh.
Fates.
You
Control
are
it.
not. You guys are not taking the bait here.
Hecatomb.
Nope.
Control the weak.
No, but I thought that would be on there.
What?
Because it's draining the brain of a Niflate, which I like that. about
You will
that art.
gain 3 chains after you play this card.
Gateway to
Gateway?
Dis.
It is Gateway
Really?
to Dis.
That card has
Shocker,
dust
right?
on it?
That's I just thought it
Hold
was
on.
an
Then I gotta look
explosion.
this guy up.
But turns out there's a
yeah.
guy on it.
Okay, my brain has
cool.
frozen
Yeah.
here. Sheep,
Gateway
you said you were going to name a Dis DT card.
No. Any DT card.
Okay, because all I heard, and that's when
I
my
am
brain
smart enough
froze,
to
and I'm
know
like,
that it's not in DT. Right?
okay, I'm like, is this why you've been having issues
Really?
playing DT?
People
So-
like this. This just looks like, somebody with a problem. Like,
I've never looked at it before, but it's literally a mountain like sinkhole.
I can't say it.
It's like a sinkhole almost. With
Yeah, it
the
is kind of cool. There's like a Sanctum Knight, like barely holding on while the
Dis demons
His
are
sword's
falling.
falling.
creatures
into the pit.
fall into the
Yeah.
into the pit.
There is a DT
Oh.
card on here though from Shadows.
Rat
Shadows
Penny.
DT.
And it is not Rad Penny, although it is common, and he will steal
Ah.
Ember from you.
Bone knitting. Is there anything else?
Is the sea
Hobnobber.
urchin? I mean, that's the other one.
Yeah.
Hard Simpson.
Hobnobber.
Hobnobber. Okay.
Somebody really likes the art for a
Hobnobber, really?
Hobnobber, which I always thought was too busy, but somebody really likes Hobnobber.
He'll never
Somebody's
miss it. He'll never miss it.
Yeah, he's just
Knob.
he's just like he looks like just a snobby jerk.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, but and then we'll do one more. This is a Mars card from Coda. I think it's actually its only printing ever, and it is a rare.
Mars rare.
I was gonna go Battle Fleet, but
No.
it was you
Action
lost me
card.
there.
Action
Better not be
card.
Gromid.
It's an action card.
Is it bad?
It
Is it like Shatterstorm?
it was bad. Now maybe not so bad.
Oh gosh. I don't know.
Hypnotic Command.
No,
No, that's reprinted.
Cards. Coda.
Mass Abduction?
Mars.
Yeah.
is that a rare? It's not, but is that a rare?
Mass Abduction? Yeah.
Is it? Okay. It's not mass abduction. It will give you a singular chain. and it has to deal with traits.
Oh. Yeah, that one card.
Yeah, that card. That what? Oh, that card with the green in it and
yeah,
the
like
purple.
the
yeah, that one.
It's like the play something. It's like an artifact or something, or is it
Nope,
action?
it is an action.
Custom virus doesn't do action.
Yeah,
Doesn't
custom
do
art.
that.
It doesn't give you a chain.
Maybe I'm not.
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't from Coda. Maybe this is from. No, I'm pretty sure this is Coda. It might be AOA. Destroy a creature of each. Destroy a creature at each creature that shares a trait with it. Gain one
Extinction
chain.
event?
Extinction.
Yeah, extinction.
Yeah, that is wrong set.
Was it
Not
AOA?
AOA.
I don't think have you heading the right set would have helped me in this case.
I could have sworn that was in Coda, but maybe it wasn't.
Extinction, which has got like the red bird.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's definitely a
The
dodo.
no drone. Isn't
And
it a no
it-
drone?
That's definitely what is it? Felix the Disintegrator? Is it Felix or Filix? The Disintegrator. He's in the background.
That's him.
That is a cool card or art.
It looks like it's AOA, Woe, and Vault Masters.
How is it? Oh, whoa. Okay, whoa makes sense. I was thinking Worlds Collide. I was like, how would it be in Worlds Collide? There were no critters in World or no Mars in Worlds Collide. But with that being said, we brought Ben here for a very specific thing today. Sheep is
Picking
going
Khaleesi
to.
Dragon news.
Yep, big Khaleesi
That
Dragon
one.
news. Thanks for coming on, Ben. Have a great night,
Yep.
guys. Bye
All
bye.
So actually, if you're really into the show, this is not the first time you've heard Ben on it, because he did join us in the walk wagon. I think that audio got
that-
released.
I was gonna say that dropped. I didn't.
None of that's been released yet.
Oh man! All right.
There
well,
may
top
there may
secret,
be
you might hear Ben again because we
there may have to be mass editing that happens, and there's 5
Oh.
hours of audio.
just.
Oh, gosh.
There was just some snoring from Wookiee. We're fine.
Yeah.
That was on
so
the ride back.
I did all of Ewok's show last week in the car on the way back. That's why I don't want to do it again. Or I've already let my brain drop all its stuff. But we have Ben, who's also Ben the Monkey here, because he is the Open Archon winner at Extra Crispy.
Yay!
And a little bit later, we're going to be talking about Deck Ascension, and he is specifically the person I wanted for this conversation. So we'll see where this goes.
Why would that be, Sheep?
You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
All right.
Okay, Ben, I got a few questions here about how you got to the Archon Open, so people can get a little background, some understanding, and then we'll just keep carrying on like we do here, which means we will get sidetracked.
Sounds great.
The big one, the first one, because of the way this event was, Archon versus Alliance. How did you? Yeah, because going in, because Ben and I had talked going in. You also played in the Last Chance qualifier, and depending on how that panned out, you had to be ready for both if you were able to get a qualifier into Worlds. And then from there, you knew you had a good choice for both decks, or for both things, so you actually had to choose going into the Open.
This is all correct. This is accurate information.
Yes.
So Sheep had helped me craft an alliance with a decently broken Scholar pod or Saurian pod that I opened paired up with Scholars. It's definitely pretty gross. It had oh man, I'm forgetting all the names of all the cards. The Briar's Arc, bunch of Befuddle, your usual broken stuff. The classic combination of Equidon, Saurian, and Unfathomable. But as Faye would have it, and I was in between the two a lot. I couldn't decide. And then that night, I was playing games with all the random awesome Keyforge people at the hotel. And it was a little bit late, but one of the games I was playing against this really broken, tokened out MM deck, I was starting to make a bunch of misplays with that Alliance deck. I had done things in the wrong order, and it just basically demonstrated to me that although I had maybe 20 games, maybe with it, I wanted to stick with what I knew, even though it was going to be the harder field to play against.
Seems
so
like a good reason to me.
so I went with my baby, who was been with me since Winds of Exchange pledges arrived, and that is as maybe known by now, but the ooze that trains all 3 houses.
Yeah, give us a minute primer on that one.
So it's warrior token, Equidon Mars, and the Mars is just a token machine. It's got 1 amber pip on one of the clone homes. It's got a second clone home, and it's got Make 2 Mark 2 generator, a vet minder, a little bit of amber control with 1 hypnotic command and 1 of the other action that makes the opponent capture 1 from their own side. And then the Equidon is interesting because it's double Talent Scout, and that kind of makes it's one of those cards that's very similar to TMDP or Interdimensional Graph in a sense, in that it makes your opponent play differently, even if that card never shows up in the game. So Brain Dart, thank you. So especially against decks that like Infernus-based decks or decks that very much care about 1 or 2 creatures, they have to get those cards out into the archive real quick or play them in a suboptimal way. And I think that is part of what helps the game out a little bit. Got a board wipe in both Mars and Equidon, and then the Brobnar's got nothing. I mean, it's got triple Berserker Slam, which is one of my favorite styles. My Worlds Collide favorite deck also had double Berserker Slam. And then double Ragnarok Prep. So bunch of Amber Control and Brobnar, and it's always going to have board. So Ragnarok Preps always fire. And yeah, so then between the Warrior tokens, 1 brick, a bunch of Amber Pips, it just dominates board and keeps board. It wipes the board out and puts the board back on. So like it'll wipe board on Mars, put 3 creatures out that same turn. Yeah.
Board presence, and steal good creatures. I love the double Talent Scout. Like that's my idea of fun in Keyforge. Yoink.
Double Sewards that gives it good pips. And no dead cards, which is the classic, which is what I know that Nova loves to look for when looking at good decks.
I mean, there is a blacksmith in the deck.
And it's useful for being the target of the generous offer or the forced retirement. That's how it actually, it actually gets used way more than it gets discarded.
This is true, right? And so I have played this deck as well, and I think you're right. I was like, oh shoot, like the Ember Pip is on the blacksmith. That really stinks. And I still have discarded the blacksmith, but you're right. It does get played far more often than in a normal deck where you got a blacksmith.
That's true. Over half the podcast today has played this deck in a tournament,
which we will get to after we talk about your success at Worlds.
Sweet.
Okay, couple quick questions if you want to hit any interesting stuff on it. Going into the to the Open, were there any particular decks you thought we're going to see in the Open, or was you just feeling like you have absolutely no idea what's happening in the Open because the biggest decks are over in Worlds?
Absolutely the latter. Yeah, I had no idea what to expect in the Open. I just thought I'd give it a shot, and I the whole way up until the final, I was just happy to be there, like happy with the performance so far. And so when I was top 8, so happy I made top 8, top 4. That was great. I can finish on top 4. I'll be really happy, etc. It just kept it going. And ooze kept oozing.
It did. I know particularly there was some discussion before the championship game. I remember being there, you talking about it, and I was in my own funk at that time. But the way I had read the conversation from you, you were reading that deck list, and it's like you seemed defeated before you played that game.
Yeah, I came in saying like and it was one of the best most fun I've had in a Keyforge game, I think, that I can remember. Where I was cheering for him because I knew that his deck just had if Ooze doesn't keep board, Ooze doesn't really do anything. Ooze will really fall flat on its face if it can't have more creatures than its opponent. And boy, oh boy, does that other deck have ways to make sure it has more creatures than me. And between so the deck that I was facing was a Vault Masters deck. As I say in hushed tones. The set that will not be named. So it's got Hollowfast with a brick.
Wait, it was what?
Harmel.
It was what kind of deck?
My
Vault
voice.
Masters deck.
A what?
That set that makes fan of the show JM very, very upset.
They made.
I know
good
our voices just get really staticky as soon as we say that word, right?
They made good
Yeah.
ones. They made good ones of those.
No, good players
Oh.
figured out how to play mediocre ones.
That's not true. But anyway, they're still bad.
This deck is real gross. So it has so many ways to make you go really high on Ember and then archive its
Few pieces.
what's it called? Rant and Rive. So it'll make sure you really pay for that with that Rant and Rive between having so it's Brobnar Dis Logos. Let's back up a little bit. The key component though is that Hollowfast with a brick, 2 Ganger Chieftains to make it fire the turn you play it, Harmel, Lollop, Headhunter, Volca. You play Hollowfest and then you get them all killed. Your opponent finally takes care of them. Then you play Grim Reminder in Dis, take all the Brobnar back to your archive, which is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 creatures. No, 10 creatures. 9 creatures. Final answer. Then, okay, fine. You kill this entire board. Somehow you kill the Harmel before you kill the rest. Great, you've managed to kill its board. Well, then he has Think Twice. That'll get Grim Reminders again. So he has, between Hollowfast, Grim Reminder, and Think Twice, in 3 different houses, the way to bring back his entire Brobnar board.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
I mean,
good.
does it really take skill just to play the same 7 cards, 9 cards again and again and again? Would really?
I mean,
I'm being a
there's
jerk.
yeah, come on. There's ordering. There's
For
when do you
sure.
hold. There's. I mean, this I've never played this deck. This is what Camvaz, Master of the Glacier. I've never played this deck. There's some good stuff in here, right? Like I see what you mean in terms of being able to boost you up with the eddies and the lash and the drumble and so on and so forth, right? And then knock you down. But I don't think this is just necessarily a full autoplay, right? You're trying to execute a plan with this. And it
definitely
a
has
little low.
I'm the only
This is
person
a
around here
low.
who plays a near autopilot deck.
There you go.
But it's not
Dude, for-
autopilot because X-Ray sucks and he can't play it. So
Duh.
Well, I know that my deck is also user friendly because, and we'll get back to that. But
okay.
but it does have a couple of key cards that kind of have to come out at certain times, and when that doesn't happen, that's when that deck doesn't fire, and that's what happened games 2 and 3.
But
Yeah, and
not
if you outboard early, I could see where this might struggle if he can't get this unlocked gateway.
Right. Yeah. If you can kill the Harmel, obviously the Harmel is the key. So I chained Forced Retirement for most of several games. Like Forced Retirement was my ticket out of there. So I would be hard pressed to play it,
Boy, sheep.
even at the cost of moving slow.
If 83 SAS is a mediocre deck, I would hate to see what you say as straight fire.
91. Fraud. These are the easiest questions in the world.
Next question, sir.
So
Hey, guys.
hold on. I just need I need like clarity in my life here. So anything below 80 is what? We just burn those, or like?
Yes, it's
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, we shred them. We
Oh.
don't burn here, but it might be a moderate Jenka deck. So maybe it gets played. But yeah, otherwise they go into the obscurity pile.
The box of shame, as we call it.
Yes.
The,
For sure.
The other challenge with this deck, for if you're piloting it, I'm gonna say pilot a lot now since I know Quick Draw doesn't like pilot. So it's only got 3 Ember Pips in the entire deck. That's really low, right? One of them is your Rant and Rive that you're probably holding to try to do your fancy moves. Essence Scale, okay, good. And then Wild Wormhole, which could be risky at times. So you need to reap.
This is very true. Or you could just roll a 6 with Ganger Chieftain, you know.
Or that.
You always spin the
Wait.
wheel.
Which is also reaping. So yes, reaping wins games. We have learned this. Okay.
And there's
how
no
many,
tokens to get rid of, like you can't accidentally token your Brick Nasty.
How many
That's true.
rounds did you play in total?
So at 5, I went 4-1. Does that make sense? Draz, you you were 3-2.
Yeah, I was 3-2. I was
Okay.
Yep.
So that makes that makes me so 4-1 day 1, and then the 6 games. No, what 5 games on day 2.
And then 3 more on the next day, or depending. Was that so yeah, I think you also have the distinction now for longest on timed final.
Oh, do I?
I do believe you took that from Nova and Seattle.
Really?
I'm not 100% of the details, but your second game was like an hour and a half alone, wasn't it?
I couldn't tell you. Time was not moving while I was in that game. So
I know time wasn't
Time
moving
was
for
not
us
moving.
because we were watching you play.
What?
Like it was a very long game. I don't remember the exact time, but like you guys played for a long time.
I was determined to not lose by misplay. Which he did not play slowly. I played slowly.
Well, but
No,
Ben,
I'm not commenting anything about slow play. I don't think the game in Seattle was slow play. It's just a
Meticulous
situation
game.
where you can counter each other's plays multiple times, which can really go down. Because, Ewok and I have played a few WoW games where we'll have cycled decks 3 times and nobody's got a key. Because they just, you make tokens, the other guy kills them. And then you make tokens, and then they kill it.
That's just how Ewok plays normally.
Well,
you have the counter for what your opponent is going ahead and bringing. I will say, Ben, for me, what really stood out in this game, having been in the same room, I think that it's really important for the greater community to understand how much mental fatigue can happen in this large tournament with the amount of games that were being played, and the idea not to take yourself out of a game. So we had talked about when you faced this deck, you saw the matchup, but you kind of almost gave yourself I'll give a step down. Like you saw the advantage, you saw what the odds are for winning, and while the odds were not in your favor, your ability to kind of process and to see what outs were also early on in that first game, like, oh, I've already lost. And I think this is a really important aspect for top level competitive play, because I remember being there and just like, hey, buddy, you got this. Like, calm down, slow down. So his slow play, you can go ahead and blame it on me. That's fine. You lose the slow walk. But Ben, after we had talked, like to see that joy in game 2 when it finished, and then game 3 went very, very, very quick on the other side.
Yeah, like 3 minutes, right?
Correct.
Seems super quick.
So it does just come down that sometimes that matchup and how the game goes back and forth will vary drastically from game to game. But I think, Ben, the part that I loved about your journey was the aspect that you controlled slowing yourself down and not working yourself into the loss. And I can't stress that enough. I think that you could have easily just given up on game 2, but you didn't. You fought and you fought and you fought, and you kept looking for those outs. And that is the difference between your position and winning that open and just going ahead and finishing close. So that's that top level Keyforge community and like play that we're looking for, that oftentimes it's hard to quantify and really go ahead and showcase to people who aren't there. But awesome job, man.
Yeah, I've got a couple things.
Yeah, I like
Go
how talk of going slow energized Ewok over here to speak up and contribute to the conversation. Slow walk slow.
Again, you may position it as slow, but the end result is being meticulous about your play and control is another level that can go ahead and allow you to be successful.
Yeah, you can make me fall asleep at the table.
So I definitely agree with a lot of what JR said. I think I have a slightly different take, and that's I think our different mentalities, which is that hang on. Let me start that again.
Oh no, you're gonna make Wookiee
My voice
try to
got-
edit. He's not gonna do it. Though, so just keep
Okay,
going.
well, that'll be in there. We'll get some good throat sounds.
All right.
And clap. Okay. What was I saying? Okay. So I do have a different mentality than JR in terms of I appreciate his pep talks and the optimism he tries to instill, but I went into every single game day 2 assuming I was going to lose, and I found that for me is the way to go. To set myself up for, okay, great. Each game was okay. We made it this far. I'm proud of myself. I did no misplays in day 1. Between luck and good matchups, I made it to day 2. But this is where the journey ends, and this is really awesome. I'm just happy to have made it to day 2 in the open, and then I won top 8. Okay, sweet. I've looked at the next deck list. It's strategically one that Ooze has a lot of trouble with because it was a double cursed relic deck. So it goes very high, very fast, and Ooze does not have any scaling amber control. So if you go to 12, I say, all right, good luck. That you got it. For example, it didn't happen. All right, I high rolled hard in that top 4 game. And then I looked at the next deck list and I said, okay, great. This will be one where I'm really interested and excited to see that a Vault Master deck won the Open. That'll be really interesting. He came really far to I forgot where Backno is this, I think it's his name. I forget where he flew in from, but I believe it was a far distance. And so I told him, like, all right, I think you're very favored to win this one, and I'm rooting for you. And that was true when he lost game 2, and then I was still rooting for him when he also ended up not winning game 3. And I think that showed in like our camaraderie while we were playing that match. But yeah, the gist of what my response was to JR's comment was yes, you should have a positive outlook, or you have take the opportunity when they're available, but I don't set yourself up for disappointment. And then my other comment about my performances, I do think that speaking of like experience and practice, is that like it was absolutely the fruition or the culmination of my Keyforge career in terms of a lot of that play style came, or at least a big part of the way that I played at Worlds came from my day 2 game with Z, where I was playing Ooze, and I telegraphed very hard that I was holding on to Hypnotic Command, and he explained that after the game. He's like, "Hey, I mean, all other play aside, just be careful of not deciding what your whole turn's going to be before you start your turn, because you really telegraphed that you were holding on to one more Mars card." And that really stuck with me for the rest of this tournament, where I thought through, ordered it all, sequenced the whole turn out before I started doing anything, and that could definitely have contributed to the duration of the games. And then part of it was also just experience. I was in my top 8 game, the other player mentioned that he was nervous. He's never made it this far, and there was some pressure on him from being like at Worlds in a top 8. And I was cool as a cucumber because this was my 3rd time. It sounds a little pompous, but it had been my 3rd time making day 2, maybe 4th. At that point, my nerves had calmed. Like I knew what it felt like to be in day 2. I knew what it felt like to play precisely and slowly and make sure you're doing, drawing cards face down, all that stuff. And I think that at the end of the day, what was important was that I drew well, but also those other things.
Yeah, if I ever find a top 4 in a major event, I don't know what I'll do. I might pass out. Top 8s, every day of the week. Top 4s, nope, can't do them. Unless I'm in Canada, but that's a whole nother experience. Okay, so you got any thoughts on 2LO that you want to share? That was
Sure, yeah.
2LO
Yes.
was a big changes in the season. You did play pre-2LO. You were at an event pre-2LO and post, weren't you?
Yes, I mean, I was at Collinsville back when it was Swiss, and a bunch of other vaults back when it was FFG.
Particularly in this 23 season. Was 2LO for Gen Con?
No. It was right after Gen Con, I think.
Yeah, so
it was
you
still
played
double elimination at Gen Con after Gen Con, after the pictures were released. the dirty pictures of round 1 being 4 people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember
So,
pestering CTP at his booth about about it.
It was all Drazcore. He's like, man, those damn Archons corners, guys, just do something about it.
You're welcome, Keyforge
so
community.
you did get to experience the full breadth of tournament formats for this year.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just that. Yeah, that I mean, part of it was obviously seeing the madness that you had to go through, Sheep, as the in the world's Archon. But my main thought is that it needs to be slightly tweaked at least a little bit to ship closer to perfect brackets, because when those brackets get sloppy, things get really silly. But I do see the benefit of it over, like, I experienced the downside of the alternative of being of Swiss, where all the people start dropping out after they've lost twice, and you get a bunch of weird buys, and the whole process gets very screwed up when you try to do Swiss and people drop.
Yeah, well, thank you for thinking of me. I think I'm with you. Like, I think something needs to be cleaned up for the bracket side, or we just go back to 3-deck survival, because that's basically 2 LO. Or 2-deck
Sealed.
survival, right?
Sealed
Like,
survival.
Just give us sealed. Yes.
Listen, I have a
Sealed,
cookie in my
please.
mouth, so I'm going to be short. I can't find one good deck, let alone 3. So, no.
that is fair. All right. Is there anything else that you experienced in the meta field of Open that you thought was interesting? Like, you actually got to see a VM at a high level, so that's new. Like, we've talked about it. People have feared it's going to be a thing. It still has not won anything major, but you did face one of the good ones.
Yeah, it's a strong deck. There's other Vaultmaster decks out there that are absolutely bonkers, and I bet we'll keep seeing them pop up for once in a while. But I think that we don't see. I think that randomness does play a large part, and there just aren't enough of them out there to see them come out from luck plus skill.
I believe there was there a DT deck in your field? Did you get to face it?
I did not, and I had to ask people about what the relevant cards in DT were in the car ride when when we were heading down, because I was like, if I face DT and I look at the deck list, I'm gonna. I mean, first of all, everyone was so nice. Like, and if there's ever a question, there's 1 or 2 new cards I faced for the first time. That everyone was very welcoming and letting you know what things did. Yes, there was 3.1% Dark Tiding decks in the Open. It was 67.7% wins of exchange, and 75% of day 2 was wins of exchange. So that plays out, and then Vaultmaster sitting there at 1.5%.
So there was 2 DT decks.
2D2.
Poor folks.
Wow.
Okay, so you are the first person to be announced as a qualifier for 2024 Worlds.
Woohoo!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does that impact your look into the current non-existent 2024 tournament season?
I think that I'll still obviously drive out to any driving distance vault, and then if there's sealed vaults, I'll be much more interested, because sealed is just more fun in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even as an owner of one of those top 0.1% decks.
Hold on. Say that again just one more time. Just, I need to make sure I heard you appropriately. And Josh, I need you to take notes. Just one more time. Just run, just like, and then say it again, okay? And go.
I think that sealed is the most fun personally for me. I would love to see Sealed Menagerie as an OP. that would be really cool.
Oh wow.
Wow, you want to talk about random trash?
All right, you might have crossed the line there, but you know what? We'll allow it. You know, if it brings back
Play a
sealed,
quad Khalifi dragon.
oh jeez, if it brings back sealed, we might allow it.
So
I just think it'll bring new players. Maybe, I don't know.
That is a question we are not able to answer. We think, but we don't know. So, you're qualified, to our understanding, unless something changes, like, you're only qualified for Archon Worlds, which is bring a deck.
It's true.
Are you going to be in the market in this next season trying to find an upgrade?
No, that sounds exhausting.
It's tough. right? It is a very hard thing. Ewok is just kind of coming off of that. Like he was on an extensive search coming into Worlds 23, trying to find something he was really feeling he could play and get somewhere with. Ultimately, somebody else found a deck and he got to play it, so it worked out well. But it is almost demoralizing searching for.
I think I'd have to make a pen name or some sort of mask to mix, because otherwise anybody that wants to sell for me like understands that they're selling me a deck that they'll see at Worlds, right? Like that would make it harder to buy. I've seen it doesn't happen that much, but sometimes I see Team SAS struggle to go through with a purchase because other people understand that they're selling to Team SAS.
There may be truth to that.
I wouldn't. I don't.
I know
think I've
Z
been
has
long
said,
enough.
has said that for himself, right? And I've heard others mention it as well. I don't know that it's happened for me, but who knows?
I mean, yeah. Regardless, buying decks. I don't. I've definitely bought lots of decks, but mostly Khalifi Dragon decks. One of the most expensive decks I bought was the single Savior Khalifi Dragon deck in existence, and I'm extremely happy that I have it now.
I did
but yeah,
share a picture of your Khalifi wall in our chat, in
Yes.
the show chat. So good luck finding it, guys. If you're not listening live, too bad you don't get to see it. All right, so as promised, to let Wookie back in on this conversation because he doesn't like interviewing people anymore. That's not his thing. But we also want to talk about a deck Ascension, and there's a very specific reason I wanted to bring you on, Ben. I have heard rumors that it is potentially your deck that is going to cause deck Ascension to be a thing.
That's really interesting. I had no idea.
Because when you look at it, Ewok, how did you do with it?
Well, I did fairly well. This is the deck that's in Minnesota. I was able to take to second place. So Ooze did very, very well for me.
And qualified you for the event. Drazgor, how have you done with Ooze?
2 top 8s.
Ben, what's your record?
Yeah, so top 8 at Gen Con, and then 0-2 in Canada, I will say, and then obviously won the Archon Open at Worlds with it.
Well, that's Sheep's territory up there, so
Yeah.
you got no chance. So
That's right. You got to ask permission. You didn't kiss the ring. You don't get to win. And then Z's not here. Z also played Ooze in Seattle and took it to third, and also got a Worlds invite. So
How did you do with Ooze?
I beat Ewok at a practice game when I played it.
Oh,
I never ran Ooze. I've had my own silly thing to play. Right. We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Ooze.
I'm here to talk about it.
At Gen Con with it. That was my one loss day one.
Yeah, so Fraud is also a deck that kind of hits this because it qualified me for Worlds through one event, and it also qualified Z into Archon before he upgraded his invitation, right? He did upgrade to a win in Alliance. Sorry, Alliance.
I was gonna say, didn't he get a Alliance?
Yeah, he got a top 3 Alliance invite, and then upgraded his to a win on a different deck. But, two of us are sitting here with 2 decks that have accounted for sort of 5 total invites in a season that there was only 80, right? Like 88 total invites everywhere. And the 2 of us own a deck that is repping, we're repping 5 invites. I guess 1 is for 2024. So like that is a thing that the decks keep getting passed around. Now, an interesting thing that's totally aside to this is when Ewok played your deck in Minneapolis, you were not actually a member of Team SAS. So it was not like a team borrow at that time, right? Like JR did a very good job of reaching out to you and saying, like, I saw you rock this. I like what it does. Can I use it? And you, being the giving person you are, you agreed to let him roll it. And then after that, I said we had to have you. And that's
I mean, I've been in the shadows of Team Stats for a while now, right? Where I would drive down with you guys.
Yeah, you travel with us all the time. Like it's fit.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
but
mostly
you're,
follow
you're,
Doc.
you're part of the group, and I think that's a really important part. Is while we see it now as Team SAS, the end result is you've been one of our travel buddies for a while. We love hanging out with you, and when you love hanging out with people, you want them to be on the team. That's a really important aspect for a team. Hey, who do I want to
That's
hang out
exactly
with?
it. Yeah, and I followed Sheep from being in Sanctimonious over to SAS.
yeah, we've been playing together since very early in this thing. So it is interesting. So we started talking about deck Ascension. Like, is it fair that many people qualified with the same deck? I don't actually think this is a team discussion, because when you look at Minity, which won an event and then was played by 4 other people throughout the season that I know of, and only one of those players was a Reap Out player. Like an ABR player played it once, a SAS player played it once.
Wait, who played Minity from SAS?
Sydney had it.
Yeah, Sydney had it in Canada.
And then
in Canada. Okay.
And then JR has played a Reap Out deck at a Vault Tour.
There
right?
you go.
So it's people keep saying teams, and I just want to be clear. I think teams is the wrong word, because teams is really kind of identifying your friends group, especially the way this game goes now. There is a lot of sharing that has nothing to do with teams at this point. I think it's also because the community is so great, small and niche. Like a lot of us know each other very, very well, whether we're on the same team or not, because we played on ABR teams together. We played on weekly events together online. Like, it's a pretty tight community. But is it
even
a
the
real
person
problem?
who runs, right? Even the person who runs ABR is Team Reap Out, right? Like Devin is Reap Out, right? So, by the way, signups are up, so everybody should go sign up for the next season ABR.
It will start in January, so you got a few days.
Yes.
But is this a real discussion? Like, is it a problem that Ooze kept qualifying people?
Yes.
I'm not here to disagree with you. So
Talk to me as to why, because that was a resounding yes from Wookiee, but why? Because you see it a little bit differently.
All right. So what's our goal as the community, right? Like, we run a podcast. What's our goal?
Us? It used to be to learn how to crush face.
Right. Okay. But
what is our goal? Our goal is to hang out on Thursdays typically and talk about Keyforge with friends.
I'm gonna drive this truck right off a bridge. Okay. What's what is
I didn't get a right start this year, Wookiee, so I don't know what my goals are. What's my OKRs for this year?
So like what do we all want?
To play Keyforge?
Correct. And what do you
at a
need?
high competitive level.
What do you need to play Keyforge?
An OP event.
And what do you need at
too soon? Okay,
what do you need at said OP? What do you need to have a said OP event?
Players.
Players.
No, humans.
So you need new players, right?
No, we just said players.
I mean, I had
you
fun
need
playing
new
with
players.
the same.
You need
same
new
45
players.
people. all year
You
long.
need new players.
We need new players.
I would reckon a gander. And I think there might be one person who has this type of information. Not pointing any elbows here. But I would wonder what the percentage of people that went to all the Vault Tours was. What percentage were locals?
One player went to all the Vault Tours.
Okay, what percentage were multi-offenders? And what percentage
40%.
were one-timers?
Yeah, it was
Gut
a good
feeling.
number.
I think it's going to be higher.
I don't.
No?
I mean, I did go to all but one vault, so there were a lot of local faces at almost every event.
How many familiar faces were at almost every event?
I mean, they're all on my team. And then Reap Out, right? So there's probably
that bus right off the
there's probably 12 to 15 people that went to a lot of them.
Yeah, you talk about the
Maybe
bus,
it's
but
20.
the unresult is there is a select group that is extremely invested
Dedicated.
in this
Sure.
game. Yeah, they're dedicated.
Stupid.
So they're okay. You call it stupid, you call it dedicated, but the end result is this group loves the game, is willing to invest a lot of money to travel for the game, to go ahead and acquire important decks. They're putting a lot of time, energy, and money into the game.
Right. Okay, so from a business perspective, how does any of that time, money, and energy help GG besides for like people like X-Ray who just buy boxes?
Okay, so what you're saying is that
I'm getting
there's a
now
lead to
I'm on a
sales.
totally different point. But however, to acquire new people, you have to rotate decks that have a proven track record of being able to compete at a high level to move new decks in.
Why?
So
Because the way this game sells decks, if at some point, like, I mean, like, this is all gut. I don't have any good facts, but as the number of different decks showing up in Archon, if that number starts to shrink, like if it's not just players, but the number of decks that are showing up is not rolling over consistently, that indicates that the meta is really, really stale. And if, as we have talked, like we know buying sealed decks is a poor way in general to open. Like we can't all be Ben and open an ooze, right? Some of us have to buy a fraud.
Sure.
So if that does get stale and the decks that are showing up are not changing much, it dissuades people even more from investing in opening product because the chance of it being meaningful is low. A lot of that's perception, and there is a problem, and this is where the team talk gets a thing, is you keep seeing the same players at the tops, but if you look like Reapout and Devin, he top 8'd almost every event. He did probably top 8 every event he went to this year, and he played a different deck every single event.
But that's what I want to actually point out. So for me, for Philly and then Gen Con, I went ahead and played Smoke. For Minnesota, I played Ooze. When I was down in Dallas, I played one of Devin's decks that I literally acquired with under 2 minutes before deck registration was there in the Lions deck. I played that. So and then I played Melondrak for Worlds. So if you look at all of the top 8 finishes, the top 4 finish that was there to 2 finish, these are all very, very, very strong finishes. And so while I hear this on a deck, you see Devin and myself both being able to make it across multiple different decks. And I think that is different. I think deck is part of it, but I think the player also
there
plays
is a
large
70-30 split in decks, right? 70% of it is deck, 30% of it is player. You go ahead and try to argue it.
I think as you get
Ooze
to top level,
aided how many? Ooze top aided how many times?
Well, I do think that a deck
no,
plays a part.
all I want is an answer. Ooze at top aided how many times?
Well, because I want to go ahead and talk. And Draz, I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but Draz, you ran into some issues with Ooze because it just comes to matchup. And I think people miss.
Yeah.
Well, so it is player. It is your luck in what you draw. So that is the matchups, and
all right,
it is
60,
the player
30,
skill.
10. There we go. 60,
so
30,
interestingly, 10. So the first time I top 8 and lost to the Sandhopper deck, I actually should have done what Ben said he did before, which was hold that forced retirement. Because I was all of my C and all of my talent scouts were not coming out, and I wasn't able to knock out that. I didn't have anything in my hand to be able to take care of the steward once it appeared.
Yeah, the talent scout's super strong against that deck.
It is, but they didn't come. But I did get the forced retirement, and he put out his Sandhoppers, and he didn't have that steward yet. But I just used the forced retirement on something, and that was the big mistake because I was like, I've got so many better options for it, but like once he gets in that cycle, you're really screwed if you can't stop it immediately. So I could have.
Interesting, because against Ooze with that deck, because I've actually played Faith Online quite a few times now, that the typical way you play that deck is you never leave the pipped up steward on the board at the end of the turn because
Right,
they can't kill it, and then you just get to do it. But against ooze, if you own board, I guess you have to leave it out because of the talent scouts.
Yes. So
That's interesting. I've not encountered that play, but that does change the way that deck plays in a way.
and that is what and that's what Sith was doing. He was leaving it out because he was afraid of my talent scouts. And
Yeah, that deck without the pipped up steward is real slow. Real slow.
Yep. But I didn't hold the forced retirement because I was like, oh, I'll get my talent scouts. Oh, I'll get better stuff. And that's not that good a card. But it was I don't know if it would have won me the game, but I did have it in hand and I could have held on to it. So there you go.
Okay, so not here, obviously, is the discussion of Nova and 3 event winning Jacques.
Yes.
That won 2 Vault Tours and a whatever the other
Nationals.
event. Thank you. Nationals. Is it? And actually, I played that deck once. It turns out I'm a scrub, so I did not do that well with it.
But your 2 losses, you lost to Ooze when I was on it for Minnesota, and what was your other loss?
Raider.
Okay.
He went hot. I didn't go hot. And that's how it goes sometimes.
Regardless of all this, we've really gone off the beaten path here. The fact of the matter is that if you are from the outside looking in, if I am a player looking to get into Keyforge, and you're right, I'm not looking at getting into Keyforge, but I'm saying we get to the 6-month mark, and maybe I'm starting to go to some events where I got to travel to. Right, and I consistently see the same, and it says a perception is reality thing. So you have to control the narrative. So if I'm going to continue to see the same decks over and 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 over again, which you are seeing, you can argue with me that it's player dependent. It's not. A lot of the same decks are repeating over and over again. And if I now am getting into my year mark and it's like, listen, bro, I don't have a deck. So I'm just going to go, and I can't change my deck. It's not like I can be like, oh, well, if I just had this and maybe just make these minor tweaks here or there, like I can, battle against it. You can't. You got to buy a whole new deck.
Doesn't that make it easier, though, Wookie, in order to buy a deck? If you know what's going to consistently be making top cut, that you can find that counter. I mean, Sandhopper presented quite a
what
bit.
Did you just say? So does it make it easier to just go buy a deck?
Yes,
to counter?
If you know.
So I'm going to go buy a random deck and look for a hard counter to it?
Oh, no. I didn't say a random deck. I actually said on the secondary market. So let me be very, very clear about that. If we look on the secondary market, if you know that Faith is going to consistently be there, or you're looking at Minity, or you're looking at Melandrek, or whatever deck you want to be able to put in, Ooze,
or
go
I have
ahead
a better
and
idea.
find...
I have a better idea. I can just go play Commander. Like the reality of the situation is this is what you face. Right?
Is it? Because there were plenty of
100%. Yes. The answer
what I'm
is
saying
there are
is
other card games out there where I have more control of what's in my deck.
Yeah, no,
so
I agree
how
with
do
that,
I control the narrative? How the thing you got to think about is how does Keyforge control the narrative of the same people with the same decks being dominant in everything they do?
But it's not the same. It's different decks. It's different people.
It's not different decks. It is the same decks with multiple people.
I mean,
did Melandrek go ahead and show up before?
Nobody even owned Melandrek.
I was going to say, when did
actually Melandrek was owned by both Devin and Z before.
Okay, but did it ever see a Vault Tour play? Was it ever played in a Vault Tour?
Why? Why not?
Because
I don't know why not.
Owned by a player. Actually,
because people haven't gone ahead
for the last Vault.
Because
Devin might have.
Yes, Devin did, because people go ahead and are making decisions on I don't have decks. And Wookie, this is what you're doing.
You're going so far off right now, Ewok, because Ooze did show up to almost every event Fraud did show up to almost every event. Jacques showed up to a ton of events. Some repout decks were very consistently showing up.
You're
There
also
are decks that did show up a
Consistently.
lot and
Yes.
did consistently good.
here is the other thing that I'm.
But if
going
we
to-
also have people who are going ahead and making it still into the top 8, who are not on your teams or do not have decks that are identified, I still think that it is open
just
to
because it
others.
is not identified does not mean it's not good. It just means it hasn't shown up yet.
But what I'm saying
That's
is,
all it
But
means.
that is
in
good. That
comparison,
means that it isn't a fixed meta. What I'm saying is,
Yeah,
if the top
it's not
gets
a
to be
fixed
a
meta.
fixed, if like you went to 3 events in a row and 6
It
out
was
of the
the
8
same-
decks
yeah.
were always the same, that is a huge problem. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing 1 or 2 decks.
correct, and that is
Yeah, and I
the
think-
very big difference because
It's
when you
still
look at other games,
25% of a field of a game where decks are supposed to be unique, which is kind of the antithesis of Keyforge. Like the point of Keyforge is it's supposed to be new experiences and new decks and not like that's the way a lot of people like Sealed, like Keyforge, they're not in this game because they only play one deck forever. That's not, I mean, like most people have decks they like to play, but it is not a lot of people that are not me or some of the people here. Like the variety is half the spice of this game. And there is a reduction in variety. And the question is the question we're getting and we're just running around is, would deck Ascension actually make anything? What would that look like? My flat rule would be if a deck qualifies for Worlds, it's out for the rest of the season. In theory, if that was always guaranteed to come with a prize of value X, you can think of it as being paid to not play your deck anymore that season. If it doesn't always come with a value, that's harder because then you're like, okay, so I played once and now the one deck I own that's good enough can't be played for the rest of the season. This sucks. Like, what am I going to do for the rest of the season? Because I'm not able to buy another good deck.
Well, you'll go to all these sealed events.
But
Yeah.
There you
but
go.
what does it do to all the other sub decks in your collection?
Nothing, because everything else isn't good enough to matter.
But if I'm also eliminating a lot of the good decks, does it not?
You're not
Bump those
going
up.
to eliminate enough to.
I'm not saying the 75s of the world, but I'm saying like your subpar decks are going to now see some play.
no, I disagree about that.
I don't.
I don't like you eliminate one deck. I'm telling you, if you eliminate,
I'm not
Jock, if
well,
you
see, but
eliminate
here's the
Ooze,
deal.
if you eliminate Melondrak, there's just another deck that is there ready to come in.
Well,
It doesn't go ahead and open up like you think all the other decks. And we do need to see what can we do with our other decks. But it
you
opens
guys
up maybe a
you
deck
guys
or
are
two.
talking about eliminating one deck. I'm not. I'm talking about eliminating 8 decks at Vault Tour.
But again, cheap is very spot on. What are you doing to that? If you go ahead and foil that deck, if you gain some advantage and you can then play it at Worlds, awesome. There is an advantage for it. But if you're just saying, hey, top 2 qualify for Worlds, you get something, and then all the top 8 decks are gone.
That would be awful.
It's
you would,
horrible.
You wouldn't even want to play top 8.
All right,
100%.
so who gets money? Top 4?
Top 4.
All right, so top 4 get eliminated or done forever until Worlds. They're allowed to play in Worlds, and then they have ascended.
I mean, this is why if Worlds is the refresh, it's actually the Worlds invite is that matters, because also you don't get an invite for third or fourth.
No. I'm not saying they're done until Worlds. I'm saying they can be played at Worlds, and then at Worlds we have a grand ceremony for all the Archons we have lost in 2024. They are done. They will not be played anymore. They have ascended.
That's I mean, so that's a thing. It's not terrible outside of the ramifications of just wasting all the paper and destroying sort of the value of secondary market. Like
Does
your
it
secondary
destroy
market
it, or
value.
does it bring some decks that have 0 value to some value?
No, it impacts the decks.
Does it squash everything back down, and then you sort of like you start filtering out? I mean, like what you're saying, and people were playing a lot. Ben, who's Gun Silent as we ramble now, I know your deck collection is not as strong. Maybe like your number 2 deck is not in the same ballpark as Ooze. Like I have to go from what I am onto a deck called Square Bus, which is good, but it's not great. But would I play it at a vault? Certainly. Have I played it at a vault? Certainly. But it's not on the same level. And Wookiee's right. I would actually like the opportunity where that deck could be played and had fun with in a meaningful event, which it doesn't have right now. Like that's a thing.
You're talking about matchup dependent. I eliminate 4 matchups immediately. You don't think that opens up matchups now for other decks to come in?
It definitely. I think you're on a typical Wookiee, like say a really big thing without
Understanding the ramifications.
Oh no, I understand
that. It needs to.
I understand the ramifications. I do not think you're. I do. Well, okay, so explain to me the ramifications, and then I'll tell.
I don't think you understand the ramifications of how that's going to affect secondary market and deck buying.
Why does GG care?
Because they want to sell decks.
Yeah, a healthy
Right.
secondary market.
A healthy secondary market is important for any game.
Yes.
Correct. However,
And so I think having those top items,
you guys
that
act
go
like
for
we
big
have
dollars,
a healthy secondary market. We do
No,
not.
no.
There is no healthy secondary market right now.
I think what I'm saying is that the more decks you have going for bigger dollars, the more that lifts other portions of the market and makes people think, hey, I can buy stuff and maybe I can sell some of it and get some money back. Like, I do think it's good.
I don't see our secondary market as healthy right now. Our secondary market.
I didn't say it
is
was. I'm just saying if I agree with the thought that if you get rid of too many decks, right? If you ascend too many decks, it'll depress the value of those decks, and or if you want to think of it the other way, like it'll constrain the growth over time of the value of those decks.
I am talking 12 to 16 decks a year. Considering maybe
why does that
we have 3 to 4 vault tours.
And you think that'll make Archon players be like, "Oh, I actually stand a chance now because those 4 decks."
Because it's a perception thing, purely a perception thing.
So okay. So when it comes to perception and new players, like I don't know. So like, okay, how many times has Ooze come in first place? Once, right? This
Never?
last time.
Oh, I'll open. Yes, that's
Yeah,
open.
the open.
Only
So
when you
if a new
eliminate the
player,
32 top decks in the world with the 32 top players in the world, 64.
right? So there you go. So, but let's just say a new player is looking at. Let's just pretend for a second Wikipedia. There's a lot of stuff on Wikipedia about Keyforge. They're like, oh, let me see which decks have won, right? And if they saw, I feel like, I don't know that they would look through the list of, let me see all the top 8s, and let me go control F, and how many have I found, right? You just sort of scroll through, right? To me, I feel like seeing Jacques is more impactful to that new player saying, ooh, hey, what's this? Versus the number of times that Ooze has gotten top 8.
I mean, yeah, Josh, I said originally ascend the whole top 8, but like most things, I got a little overzealous.
What hasn't been discussed yet is that I think the biggest impact Ascension would have is deck borrowing, because you're not gonna lend out your favorite deck if there's a chance that it'll get somebody else into Worlds and then you don't get to play it, right? Like,
great. Now I have to see it even less.
Like that, I think that's the biggest impact. Is I think that you lend it out less if Go ahead.
And that's an interesting statement there, Ben, because we see the difference between FFG and GG and how the ability to borrow decks has been handled. So
early in the discussion of Deck Ascension, people were talking about how imminent deck printing was going to be and how we're going to have these subscription services pop up where you can get access to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Sheep, for starting that.
And so this could be just getting ahead of that issue before it becomes an issue, right? Like, fraud will travel the world if you can print a second copy of it and bring it to, have it be in Italy and in the US.
Yeah.
So my question here is, Ewok, you're so against it. Why?
Why? Because I don't see the true impact on the game. I think that if you're going ahead and pulling out 1 and 2, and those have qualified, and you have it for Worlds, it is a timeout piece. That is fine. But you have people who have invested a lot of time and money into a deck. I mean, man, I'm thinking about June, who I'd played with 1,000 reps on a deck, and she qualified. And now you're just saying, hey, my favorite deck
David
for
played
Becky
in Worlds with it because she played Alliance.
Not, but
but that was her choice. But
Sure,
honestly,
but according to Wookie, it's gone forever.
But if you talk to it correct, it would be gone forever.
it's gone
and
for
that's
Vault
where,
Tours, Worlds, and Nationals forever.
But that's her.
But
But
For the
that's important
season
stuff.
or forever?
Forever.
No, he's saying
Oh my
forever.
goodness,
And
forever.
that's the thing, is that I have to stand up for players like that who have invested the time for those reps. If you are passionate about a deck, I don't mind a timeout until Worlds. Fine, enjoy it for the season. Come back, because frankly, as we add new sets,
You guys act like metas don't change in other games where you have to completely start from the ground and work your way up. This is
Yes,
not
but
new
you're-
for card games.
but what you are doing
why
is modifying the
I don't
meta.
Play those games.
Right.
So for me, Wookie, what I'm seeing is that if we're doing something special with it, awesome. We get to get some true value then out of that deck Ascension. But if you're time it out until Worlds, that makes sense to me. If you're going out and timing it out long term, it becomes even less
What's the
likely
point?
that.
So then it just comes back next year. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. What's
but
the
it
point?
plays in one event and then it's out, and for the rest of the season, like, that's good. That's fine.
These decks
So-
can be beaten. Like, these decks aren't
Yes.
aren't unbeatable. I was 50-50 coin toss most in many of those games in the Open where
I think
if I
your
had drawn a different
perception
card.
was 50-50. I think the reality is much different.
Well, I think that there is a percentage above 50, but again, I don't think that it's an 80 or 90%, which is, Loki, what I feel you're trying to lean into. I think that we have to understand that some of these decks do have they have a higher percentage chance. If I look at my reversal deck versus what I'm playing with Melindrak, sure, Melindrak is going to go ahead and win that consistently, but it doesn't mean that it's completely out of possibility that our other decks are going to win.
The
And
only
so
thing
those
I'm
are two
hearing
different
from
scenarios.
everybody is I spent a lot of money on these things and I don't want to lose them.
But if
That's what I
you
continue
have
to hear.
if you have competitive
That's
players who have
valid.
invested that money, why would they do it again?
So what? Because they want to remain competitive, right? This is what Z talks about
No.
all the time: remaining competitive, being competitive. People who want to remain competitive are spending the money, going to Vault Tours, doing all these things, right? Like this is what we've spouted off for a majority of the Vault Tour season.
But we've also gone ahead from the beginning and been given this statement that it's evergreen. And
no,
that's not
yes,
true.
that was
There have been
FFG.
plenty of times where we have talked about
perpetuating.
Dex Ascension from FFG for many times. Never
they very
happened.
clearly said money and deck ascension are linked, right? They said old decks don't get to play for the money. That was
went
it.
ahead. They went ahead and said that they would
They never
put
delivered.
a tiered system. Correct. They never delivered. and we
But
kept
that's what
seeing-
they were going to do. Deck ascent, like the whole one deck thing, that is a Richard Garfield
correct.
thing. This isn't Richard Garfield's game.
Well, it is his game, but it has been modified.
You
and
gotta
shifted.
quit. That's I totally disagree with that. And if that's the model, you can just wrap up and close because this is a dead game. If everybody only buys one $13 deck and they never play it again, this is called single print run, never look at again. That isn't a model for a game that is a game.
So if I were to
Right.
tell you that if you were going to buy a deck and you're going to buy a deck on the secondary market and that you might, if you go and you win, you might have to do it again. The idea would be is that deck prices would come down, correct?
Not noticeable. I
in
wouldn't say.
in
It's
theory,
'cause it's
they
not
would
enough
come.
decks.
What do you mean? There's
then-
plenty of decks. There's lots of decks out there, tons of decks. How many you need? I got lots of decks.
So when
According to
cheap-
you, there are no decks to go and play with because there's only 8 that win events. I mean,
And
like
this is-
you're kind of getting around. Like
we're
I don't even
straddling
think
the two parts here.
I don't think eliminating 16 decks a year would make a meaningful,
No.
a real meaningful thing.
Maybe not in year 1, but in year 2, I think it does. In year 3, it does. In year 4, it does. It
I mean,
continues
Well,
it
in
to become
theory,
more
they're
meaningful.
printing new sets with good decks and good
In
cards, and
In theory.
that's changing
I had
things
higher
up.
hopes. I had higher hopes for Briar's Arcist for changing the meta, and it really didn't do
every
much.
now and again you get a DT set.
Oh,
you
it's a
know.
rare, but
No,
Well,
But it's an answer to so many different
It
coda
is.
and AOA action based. Oh, I play 3 cards, I win.
But this is what Z has said for the longest time. Our powerful cards need to be in common. That is extremely important as we go forward.
Where that's got nothing to do with
That's
deck
so
Ascension.
left.
No. It doesn't have to do with deck exemption. If we want to be able to rotate, if you want to have an impact on the meta and the cards, then put your powerful cards in the common slot. That's what it has to do with.
Well, that's a whole nother like power creep, whatever issue thing going on. The real question that all there is deck Ascension, and the discussion I wanted to attempt to have today, which of course we never do a good job on, is deck Ascension something that really should be considered? And I will say, from an owner of the most expensive deck in Keyforge, public sale, might be a private sale deck that sold for more. I'm not certain. I would be unhappy if it retired with just a qualifications to world and not the paycheck. And this is a funny thing for me saying, because I don't support money in Keyforge, right? I've never been a big fan of it. But if you're going to, like, you can't provide different levels, significantly different levels of value to people when you take their toys away, right? Like, that has to be level. Like, I don't mind them taking toys away. Like, a ton of people had $1,000 Nepseed library access decks early on that all got nerfed and suck now, right? Like, once that combo went away, those decks lost all their thing. Like, that's going to happen. You're going to spend money on a thing, and the deck doesn't keep up with the meta. They, like in other games, they ban a key card to it or limit a key card to it, and that deck is no longer viable. Most other games, you can piece some of the stuff out, but the overall value does decline in certain decks. Like the individual card prices go down because they're only good because of something else. So that happens with other things. Like, it is a risk. Anybody who has bought a deck in this game thinking investment, I'm not here to defend. If you're buying a deck thinking it is an investment, we're talking different languages, right? Any money spent on cards, games, or this is, I'm a firm believer you should not think of it as an investment. It should be out of your discretionary income, and if you lose it, you can't be heartbroken about it. Because game companies often don't make very good decisions for supporting secondary markets. And you can't blame them for it, because secondary market doesn't always equate to more sales from the game company, which is what they're there to do. They're there to sell cards, right? Like, to sell more cards, not make it so your old cards are worth more. There is a balance, right? Like, if there's no secondary market, that hurts, but that's rarely the focus. So, like, deck Ascension, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it being said that for a period of time, you can't just keep showing up with the same thing. But for to take it away forever, I would be hurt by that, both financially and personally. Like, it would make me upset. But they ban cards in other games, and like, you're just going to be like, well, that's a thing. And then you're never going to spend that kind of money on a deck again. And it will. Like, if they were banned forever, it would reduce the value. Nobody would ever pay more than, like, you would think the prices would sort of cap at whatever the minimum you could win is, right? If first and second always got ascended and second place stayed with the same prizes at Vault Tours of $1,500, like, that would kind of cap prizes, because you're like, there's a chance that this deck only ever returns me $1,500, and then it's done forever. That is going to affect deck prices. It might even actually bring a benchmark to where you could say what a deck is worth. Like, is this a top 2 Vault Tour deck? Then it's a $1,500 deck. Because right now, what's a top 2 Vault Tour deck? I don't know. Some people are like, you should never pay more than $100 for a deck, and then there's another idiot who pays $3,600 for a deck. So, like, prices in Keyforge are the most volatile, crazy numbers in the world that are totally meaningless. And this is the first season where you've ever even been able to actually get a financial return on it.
So here's
So-
my question: why should I play Keyforge as opposed to Magic?
More fun.
Financially.
You don't have to build decks.
Okay, I don't have to build decks,
Financially,
but I want to be competitive in a game, right? So
Sure.
so financially, so how much is a Keyforge deck gonna cost? A good Keyforge deck, a solid winning Keyforge deck, gonna cost me?
Few $100.
Secondary market or just going ahead and
secondary
pulling?
market. I'm not going to pick a random one out of a box. Secondary
$100.
market. How much?
A few hundred.
What's a few hundred? That's
I
a very
think
500.
There's a scale where if you put in hours and hours, you can find a real diamond in the rough. But usually you'll pay. Yeah, exactly.
I'm a dad. I don't have hours and hours.
Exactly.
So, I mean, realistically, I've heard Sheep say many times, if you're not ready to bust out 1,000, forget about it. You've said that multiple times.
$500 to $1,000.
Okay, so
I think
500
5 is real numbers these days right now.
I think that number has changed from when we were looking at fraud, frankly, and what was available on the secondary market.
Different equation.
No. But I want to say this. But when we had talked about fraud and the purchase and what decks were available and how they were transpiring at that point, now that WoW has come out, I think that it is easier to be able to buy a deck for WoW that is in that $100 to $500 range that I can go ahead and make day 2 with. That is top 8. I think 500 is a very reasonable spot, and to be able to give me a very good WoW deck.
All right. How much, if I wanted to go build a modern deck, a good modern deck, how much is that going to cost me?
No idea. Don't
But
play
that's a modern deck.
Are you talking about Magic?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take a guess.
$1 million.
372.
Nope.
But I don't care because I have absolutely no interest.
I
in a game
understand
that
you don't care, but I'm
builds
saying that's you, Sheep.
decks.
When I go into my local game store, I am
majority of Keyforge players. They're here because Keyforge
board games.
doesn't require doing what you do in the other kinds of card games.
Okay.
All right. So according to Google, in the first result, $800 to $1,000.
Right. So about what a Keyforge deck is going to cost me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Magic,
But look at how many more places you can use that.
I was going to say, I can use that a ton more places in Magic. Not only that, what the big advantage of what Magic has over Keyforge, I have to drop all grand right now. Whereas in Magic, I can piecemeal it. I don't have to have it all right now, but I can buy a few cards here at this check, and I can buy a few cards here on this check.
Yeah,
and I
but
can
you're
buy a
not
few cards here on
competitive
this
until
check.
you have the whole thing. So just save your money and buy a deck. Like,
And
no,
the money for Magic's the drafts, right? Isn't draft nights the big thing for Magic?
Well, that's
No.
I mean, that's the game store's money, sure.
And money is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about how to get GG more money.
No, we are talking how to get more players into this game.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
But I mean,
But-
ultimately for GG,
Growing it, yeah.
it is in their financial interest to start giving the axe to some of these older decks. And maybe we don't have rotation. Maybe we have Ascension.
selling more decks, getting people to buy more decks seems pretty key to card game companies' structure. I totally agree. I think
Sheep, why don't you open more WoW decks?
I open decks when I play them now.
Okay.
I open lots of decks still. I just only open them to play them because I have found the lack of interest in opening decks and not playing them. Like, then it does not provide me happiness to open decks and not play them.
Did
So
that
I
become
open them to
more? Did that feeling become more after you had a deck? You knew that this is what I'm going to be taking to said event every
No.
time. Okay.
No,
No,
actually,
I-
that happened right at the start of the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I think that it's happened as we've acquired more and more and more decks. and we've talked about this extensively, but when you just have more decks, you don't gain contentness. And so you have to look at where's the joy. The joy is
I
being
like
able
to roll
play
around in
sealed and
mine
open.
naked.
Well, but why did Sheep, you and I open it on Tuesday? Because we were together. It was a social gathering. It was fun, even with the horrible deck that Sheep pulled, and we played.
Yeah, by the way, Sheep, I have a
equ-
deck for you. Please stop putting them in my bag.
I left that baby on the table. Somebody picked it up.
Yeah, okay.
It equated to a night out. And it
Right.
was cheaper to do that than to go ahead and go to a movie or about comparable. It was cheaper than a night at the bar, things of that sort. So if you look at it as an investment for a social time with friends, it's a great investment.
Right.
But if you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint, no, opening a random deck is not in our best interest.
Right.
Okay, but deck Ascension. Let's close this off and go to bed because we've been recording for a long time. So across the board, I'm in a middling support position. Like, I would not mind seeing some forced change in meta. I'm not 100% sold on Worlds because, like, you also, like, what if you're a player who's going to get, you can go to 2 vaults this year, but not Worlds? Like, you don't want to lose your deck to Worlds that you know you're not even attending. Like, that's sad. Like, a lot of people do have very large personal connections with their decks, and eliminating that, like that ability to have a personal connection with the deck and have it be a thing and something
It's
you
unique.
have.
It's unique about Keyforge.
Is something that I don't think would be strong for the game in the long run. I don't think that, like, ascending tons of decks to me is not what Keyforge is. Now, top end meta of Archon is also not the best part of Keyforge. I enjoy it, but it is not the best part of Keyforge.
No, it's 100%
sealed. Sealed and casual play is the, in my opinion, the golden standard.
Don't say casual play.
No, it's the golden standard of playing Keyforge. I also like top end murder Keyforge, but when I'm playing that, it's a little bit different mindset. So I'm not opposed to it. But
what could I give you for you to be
I think the negatives of it, like, are a lot. Like, to just, especially in a permanent system like you're saying, Wookie, I think a seasonal thing, I think, is sufferable. Like, if you know you're,
but then it's the same shit next season.
Is it though?
It is.
Yeah, but
is
that's
it,
magic.
Is it with new sets?
That's freaking a lot of the different.
All the decks that are around right now are
season.
still going to be around next set. They're still going to be around the set after that.
We're in a very scarcity mindset. Yeah, but if Keyforge actually grew, then there'd be enough vaults that it wouldn't be as big of a deal. Like, if there was only 10 vaults a year, yeah, it's huge. But if we should be thinking of a mindset of, like, I mean, I know realistically next year it's not going to be.
I'm thinking
20.
3 to 4 vaults a year. That's my honest, like, thought. Like, 4 vaults a year, I think, is more than enough.
Is the actual problem that the player base is too small? Yeah. Because you're really talking about taking decks away from 20.
Yeah,
I could name the 20 individuals and the 20 decks that you're going to send in the first year. Okay. Right? Like, I could probably name that.
And
they're also the people who are. Yeah. You're right. I guaranteed results, no, but, like, you do pretty good. But is that not more of a problem of that there isn't enough different faces in the game? Like, if every Vault Tour had 200 players showing up at it, it would not be the same decks making to the top. Like, the variance that is Keyforge would cause more elimination of players that of consistency. Like, the bigger the event, Keyforge is a game of luck and draw, And the bigger the event and more, I think there's more inconsistencies there. And you have it. But because it's so small, what we're doing, like you are seeing the same decks, but is that more of a problem that we don't have enough players? And then Wookiee's saying we're not getting players because people look and they go like, well, I'm not one of them 7 people with those 7 decks, so why the hell am I playing? I think there are a few people, and there are, and it is true, like it is hard to compete at top Archon. It's hard to compete at top Alliance. Is it not what actually needs to be is that point of play entry that does not require a $1,000 to $2,000 investment? Like I have no.
That's a big investment to ask
Or-
of one person.
Well, but that's what you have to do to go play Magic Modern.
But you're missing the point. Is I can do that over time. I can't do that with Keyforge.
That's just because you don't know how to put money in a bank account and buy your whole deck at once. Like you're still spending the same amount of money.
Same thing. Yeah, it's just
Right, but we are talking about game store people. This happens more often than not.
Yes, and half of these people who are buying their Magic Modern deck every 3 months come in and sell a third of their collection back to me at a loss because they can't pay rent.
Correct.
Like this happens in game stores all the time.
Right.
So it's not actually healthier for anybody.
So you're not.
It comes down.
You're helping.
I think it really comes.
Here.
I think it really comes down to OP support for sealed, right? Like if I didn't have before I owned Ooze, the vaults that I mostly went to were the sealed vaults. Like I went out of my way to go to the sealed vaults back in the Worlds Collide days because that sealed is where I don't find the appeal of buying the deck with money and then showing up and then stomping face to be as high for me as my dopamine is in opening the decks. I did not mind that at the LCQ at the last chance qualifier at Worlds that I opened up garbage, and that's I practiced a ton of sealed Alliance beforehand. I know others can vouch for the amount of sealed practice I did, and sometimes you draw bad, but that just seems like that's where I think like the novel player is going to look at Archon even with Ascension and be like, oh yeah, sure, these 16 ascended, but I still am staring at my 30 decks and none of them are Archon still. Like, I don't know that the new player is going to know the secondary market enough to think about or know how to buy smart on the secondary market to show up in Archon.
No, most people.
Yeah, so I think
newer players are buying such bad decks. Gimmick decks, right? They do one gimmick because they think it's fun.
I still buy those, but
Sealed,
they're fun.
Sealed needs to come back in a huge way, and I think we just need to drop Alliance. I hate to say it, like the experiment. The experiment failed. Like I long for the days of opening 3 decks, picking one, and playing.
Different conversation, totally. But we didn't actually touch on that in Deck Ascension. Is what do you do in Alliance?
That's a tough one that I haven't really figured out.
One, you just got to pick. You got to use the sheep's ass Alliance format. It's just like one of your pods are gone. Pick one of those 3 pods and it's gone.
Why not?
You only have to ascend.
Why not all 3 of them are gone?
Why not? Why not all 3? I don't know.
There should be a special prize if you manage to get a different pod in a different Alliance.
I think the honest to God thing is just Alliance. Like the experiment just went south.
I don't really fully agree with you there.
That the experiment didn't work?
Yes. And I will be happy to discuss it next week.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I want to pull real quick is looking at your statement, Wookie. Arcana has all of our vault winners. So, do new sets have an impact on decks? And this impacts for Ascension. So, looking at Archon Solo is specifically what I'm looking at versus Sealed, because there's a lot of Sealed that's in here as well. So, the Captain of Barracklash, so Rachel Trimble's Archon deck. Do we see it?
Well, do we see Rachel?
I understand. But that's it. Is that it's an important attachment. The next one, Gasoline from George Eagle. We saw it. Was it at World?
No, but it did make an attempt at vaults in the 2023.
Correct. Yes. Nova or going ahead and looking at Bahamut.
Sold to a collection outside of the country.
So that was your 2019. You had some sealed that was also there that we can't look at. Going into Age of Ascension, you would then have for Archon, the first one was coming from Italy, Honk, the Magnifically Topaz, which I have not heard of or seen.
I don't actually know where that deck
I
is
say,
right now.
I think the problem you're going to find here is a lot of these players just don't exist anymore.
Okay, again, we keep going. Adam inslaying the Pink Fraud from Nuremberg.
Never heard of it.
Admiral.
Never
No,
heard
this
of
is
it.
where I'm going. That's why there's some play on it. You have the Snappy Pariah.
Sold to a private collection outside the country.
Litmus, the Stonekeeper of Joy.
That one is that that's the TTR deck, right?
Well, that one was what won Krakow, Poland.
Oh
for
no,
Archon
okay.
Solo.
Get the wrong. Nope, I don't know that one.
Yep. Then we have Gasoline coming back from Collinsville. Then you have Pink Fraud coming back from Spain. And then you have Vegas with Triad, which is a little bit different, but Yak Street, Ricardo Inferno, and King Terratia, Hope of Vicious.
I think I actually know where all three of those decks are.
Yes, and we'll still see like
one is on a player that doesn't play. One is on a player with a collection that is absolutely ridiculous. That even Fraud wouldn't get played if they owned it, like that kind of thing. I guess I don't know where the third one is.
What was interesting, I'm going to throw in the Richmond, Virginia with Nathan Starwalt. Cantaphage actually showed up here and made a recall. So that was interesting, but that was
a
under
sealed
the seal.
deck. That one is sealed, and then he top 8'd with it. Yep.
And then Nova back for what is it?
That was sealed. That was sealed.
Yeah,
that was sealed. Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Light Tasker coming up for
there's your
World
TTR
Squad.
deck.
There's your TTR deck. And then
that one, I wonder why they quit playing it, because that deck still has legs.
And then you have Galaxy that's coming from Albany.
Galaxy showed up quite a lot this season.
So for me, that was a really interesting thought process when we start to see some of the decks, they just go on by themselves because players have moved on. They're not using them. Some of the decks not showing up, and there are quite a few of them are still very relevant.
Yeah, I think actually what you're saying is that deck Ascension, because half of the decks you listed are still in cycle and seeing play.
Which is why I went through it in that manner.
So, like, that says to me that, yeah, maybe they do have to think about it, because there are decks that are just better. Keyforge, it is part of this game, right? Decks are just printed better.
Yes, that was something that I missed early.
To only have money attached to owning the best stuff just drives it in a direction that is not attractive to somebody like Ryan Wookie here, right? Like it's a thing, and you're right. Like, you can't. It is harder to spend $1,000 in this game and have a deck you feel very, very confident about than just buying the same deck as the next guy for $1,000 in Magic.
A proven deck, a winning deck, a deck I know that I've seen win.
I will also say, when you buy $1,000 Magic deck, you also get to read the primer that tells you how to pilot that deck, or jockey that deck, or play that deck, whatever words you guys like. Like, basically, not only is the deck list out there, but how you play the deck is hand-fed to you, and that doesn't work in Keyforge. Because even a deck that won 3 freaking majors this year was played by another player who, top 8'd many events and couldn't make it fire the same, and I'm running Fraud, and not everybody who has borrowed Fraud can play it as well as I can, because player skill and understanding what you have to do with a deck in this game is not that this is the deck, this is how it plays. If you always mulligan for this exact thing in Magic is like, some of that stuff in modern decks, it's like, here's exactly what it's supposed to do. Here's exactly how you have to do it. Did you do it before your opponent wins some of those games? And Keyforge doesn't do that because no two decks play the same. So you can't just be like, okay, well, I bought a copy of your deck and I know how to play it the same, because it isn't solved like it is in some of those other games. And that's part of why it's good.
Well, the short answer is that something, in my opinion, has to be done. I think it needs to be short-term, Wookie. I think that Nova is my perfect instance, that she did very, very well with Jacques, and then Jacques just went 0-2 for Worlds. And the idea for I do well, but then it is gone forever by just making it to Worlds. Like, there's too much investment with a personal attachment to a deck, from Becky to Jacques to other decks that people have, that is an important aspect for Keyforge. And so for that reason, I think that it would not be good. I also will say that the secondary market, I don't want it to go ahead and spike where people have to then spend. It's just a pay for play.
See, but I don't think it spikes. I think it comes down, and I think
but
decks
this is
that
what
are
I'm
down
saying.
low come up, and we find a middle happy ground.
I don't think we're gonna find a middle happy ground. I think what's gonna happen is that people who are willing to spend $500 consistently or $1,000 are gonna continue to do that, but at a higher rate than those who aren't. I think the ability to sell other decks that frankly look like they stat well, and then we can go ahead and make some money in order to put into another deck is what you're going to see. I don't think it's going to help our secondary market.
Yeah, so this is a land of no facts and all what we think. So that is Deck Ascension, in no real meaningful discussion or real meaningful decisions. Like,
Well,
I think it
we're
should
also not
be-
making the decisions. So
yeah,
Right, yeah.
absolutely.
I think this is a thing that they need to have in their back pocket to wait for the time where it is needed. I don't think that time is now.
What about when making copies of decks is available?
Well, we'll find out. Maybe it'll
Yeah.
be needed then.
yeah, because
Yeah,
there could be
it-
two
it
copies
is
of fraud in the
interesting.
same field, right?
No,
Oh, no?
absolutely not.
No,
No?
you can only ever have one person who's controlling it in the vault, playing it at the vault.
You guys took
They've
that
announced
question
that.
far too seriously.
It's actually not even confirmed to know if two vaults were going on at the same time, if it could be registered at both vaults.
There
Like,
was a
if
train in
European-
Vermont, and it was headed to California. And there was another train in California. I don't know. Sorry.
The
You don't
mother was
put-
the doctor.
Yeah.
You don't put Keyforge decks on trains.
Oh well.
But if there were, if they-
Somebody
Or
knows.
planes.
So-
Oh no, actually, you do put them on planes. Sorry.
Wasn't
if the
it?
train has to run over one
It was
Keyforge
the
deck, and you
pallet
have to choose:
facility.
are you choosing the
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
Keyforge
wasn't-
deck or the left?
Didn't the pallet go by rail to
It did.
Philly?
It
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
It did.
So yes, you don't put Keyforge play
Or
decks on
it
trains.
didn't.
Yeah, or it didn't in this case. Yeah.
Gosh,
So
you missed a fun one there.
like I said,
Oh no, he was there for that.
Yep, that was his
Yeah.
first event, right?
That's right. Okay.
I
So-
mean, I really think the short and skinny number one is that, I mean, I think we've all figured out Sealed needs to come back. That's not something that we
Okay.
haven't figured out, but that has nothing to do with Deck Ascension.
I think it does, because if you put Sealed back into play for the people who think Deck Ascension is required, they have something to do and don't have to care about Deck Ascension anymore.
There you
no,
go.
I mean that's actually not a bad point. I mean, like, I'll be honest with you, like I'm much like Ben. I am 100% more likely to show up to a Sealed event than I am an Archon event. There was nothing for me this year to be like, I am going to piss off my family to go play Keyforge. Because it was
They've also got no good excuse not to do cubes when they've got sets of every single card in a set in one
Well.
box already ready to go.
I mean, my biggest thing is I can either I can go to a Keyforge event, scrub out, go 2-2-0-2, who knows, and then do God knows what, or I can go to my little girl's birthday party. My little girl loves me.
Always
Keyforge it is.
Well, no, the answer is not that. But if it was Sealed,
Maybe.
So
now
if we're going
cooking with
Sealed,
gas.
are we going ahead and ascending those decks too? Then Wookie.
Well, you're in a whole nother box of worms now, because Sealed is a whole other ball game.
Box of worms.
Box of rocks.
Yes, actually, Ewok, You are 100% right. Once a sealed deck wins a sealed tournament, it should never be played in a sealed event again.
So what we should just be playing? What should we just be playing is called Shredder. Then what I'm hearing?
Sounds good to me.
Ooh.
Single-use decks, always and forever.
That is not what I said, but okay. I will shred. I will shred blind with you.
Never mind. I had words, but I'm gonna keep them to myself. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how many sealed deck winners have actually gone on to do anything?
Canterphage.
I pointed out one.
We
of
named
them.
it.
Olivier?
Olivier's never done anything else. It's done
never done anything
okay in some, I think it might have seen some KFPL use early on, but no, most,
So sure, go ahead and send them.
well, they are ascended. They never get to play sealed again. It's built into the format.
Oh, well, perfect.
That's the joke.
Win-win.
They can then go play Archon, where they probably don't matter.
Where they suck with all the rest of my 75s.
Yeah, that, again, is a totally different topic in that there is still absolutely nothing to do with the majority of decks you own. Unless you just like playing random Keyforge.
Yep, which I do.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's always just playing sealed from reach behind you and grab out of the box of shame instead of buying another deck.
Canada did a great job. Canada did a great job with resealed, where they did some nice paper wrapping around the SAS.
I did
level
like
of a
that.
bunch of
I
decks.
did like those. I wanted to know how they did that because I thought that was really awesome.
Extreme amounts of effort. I would imagine. Like
Yeah,
they had
that's
to
my
really
guess.
sit there and
But I would not mind like a shredder event where here's your shredder deck and it's just like a deck that's already been opened, but it's new to you and you're still cracking it sealed, and you get to like play it and then shred it. But either way, have we covered deck Ascension thoroughly? Probably not. It'll come up again.
I
I'm
think
sure, another time.
we've ascended this conversation.
We have ascended the conversation.
I
End of the
think we've
conversation for Archon.
our
now we're cooking
traditional
with gas, Max.
descended the conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. All right. But that's going to do it for us this week. We'll see y'all next week.
Happy fortune, everyone.
May the force be
Real
with you.
keys for. Oh, damn it! I stepped on you.
We'll go now.
The real keys forged were the friends we made along the way.
Oh.
Aw. You're on the wrong show.
Catch a vibe, catch a foot when I drive. Big pressure, I'm